Yeah. And welcome in. This is the walkthrough National Signing Day preview show. Obviously, JC Shurburt and the Inside the Gamecocks guys about to go live set at 11 o'clock. But wanted to give you guys a little pregame show towards that. It's National Signing Day. I have the boss man with me, JC Shurburt, checking in. JC, happy signing day and, boots on the ground here in Columbia.
Yeah, it's something else. Early today, South Carolina got one of I guess it's a slight surprise. It's kind of a guy that's had a long journey. Originally signed with South Carolina in high school, Xavier Hardy, a defensive tackle at a position of need. He had been committed to Mississippi State. My understanding is kind of late into the night, the Gamecocks tried to flip him last night, and Carolina ended up getting him. Major position in need. He's about 6'6", 280 is what he's listed at, which means he's probably 6'4.5", 275, but maybe bigger. You never know with these JUCO things. I remember Javon Kinlaw was listed at 260, and he got to, he came in at 295 or something. But certainly that defensive tackle position, I feel good about Monkel Goodwine and Nick Barrett. They were able to redshirt this year, but it's a thin spot, especially considering all they've gotten. He's the number one ranked junior college player in the country per 24/7 Sports. And a major, and a guy that it went back and forth. Mississippi State made a great run at him. His mother really liked Mississippi State. Obviously, they can offer playing time as well, but I think that first love with South Carolina, and the fact the Gamecocks kind of turned up the heat, got him on board. I think when you break down the two opportunities for playing time, South Carolina is right there, considering who all they've lost, plus better year and a place he's always wanted to go. So that's one surprise. There's another potential surprise. It's maybe looking a little iffy. I can't share anything more than that. But and it's a player I don't think anybody's going to go turn cartwheels over, but it would be a good get and something unexpected, which is always nice on signing day, Joe, when you get a surprise, right?
Oh, absolutely. And I think Xavier Hardy's certainly a big enough surprise. Looking at the defensive line room, like you were saying, you have those two guys, redshirting Nick Barrett. Looking forward to him having a big role next year. But I think Xavier Hardy's one of those guys that is a project player where, he could really find a role for himself next year, right? He's been developing at junior college. He was freakishly athletic, when he was coming into South Carolina, just the initial scouting report. I can remember watching some of his basketball highlights, him blocking people at the rim and some of that stuff, and like just freak athlete. And so to be able to go get him from Mississippi State, I think is huge, right? And then it also saves you some stress in the portal as well. Instead of having to scramble around for more depth defensive linemen, you get a guy like Zay Hardy who can come in, make an impact, and just a freak athlete, just a dog for T-Rob in there in the D line. So yeah, I think it's big to get Zay Hardy. And then also, if you can flip anybody on signing day, making a splash or any kind of ripples on signing day is always good for your program, right? It means people are talking about you one way or another. So again, I think it's big when you can land at least one or two. And I think Zay Hardy's pretty big one for this signing day and this class too. All things considered on how thin things are at the moment.
Absolutely. Christian Ingram is a high school player. One of those, what I call late bloomers. And by the way, shout out to Oscar Attaway Jr., father of Oscar Attaway III. I just want to say this: hell of a game by your son against Clemson, man. He looked really good toting the rock on the dive play. So just wanted to give you a shout out there. Certainly appreciate you following along and listening to our shows, Oscar, all season long. It's been good, and I think Oscar's coming back next year. He's got another year of eligibility, so the running back room is going to be in good hands. But Christian Ingram is the type of guy. It's kind of a lost art in recruiting now, Joe, with everybody recruiting so early, and people ranking players so early. When I did it, when I started 20 years ago at Rivals, we would release our rankings in June of their senior year after we went to Nike camps. And so there was room for guys to go up and down, right? Yeah. Now you really sophomore rankings and stuff, and then there's the portal, and there's all this stuff. And I just don't think the industry's caught up. So a guy like Christian Ingram, maybe back in the day, some in the industry would have put him in the top 100 because he's good. Georgia offered, Michigan offered, Southern Cal offered. It's coming down to Southern Cal and South Carolina. I like the Gamecocks' chances, but 3-star guy, outside of the top whatever, but 6'6", 290, Joe. As a high schooler, I mean, that means he's probably going to top out 305, 315, depending on his body type, which is tall and lean. And here's another thing. This kid didn't even visit until the Wofford game, right? So he was coming in late, and the Gamecocks and Travian Robertson, who you just mentioned, and the entire staff really did a great job with him, because it wasn't like he had a long history with South Carolina at all. Gamecocks kind of offered him after some other schools. He's from the Atlanta area. I think if you get the right under the radar players out of Atlanta, regardless of when they come, because Demetrius Knight and Kyle Kennard were both Atlanta guys that signed with Georgia Tech originally. I think you can get some really good players out of that area, just because it's so hard for everybody to identify everybody that's a baller down there. But I really think that's another one to watch. Mike Tyler, the tight end that's committed technically, I think, to LSU. He's going to announce today. The Gamecocks feel like they're in good shape there as well. Gamecocks are up to 19th in the 24/7 Sports team rankings for those that follow that along. So, yeah, I mean, I think, Travian Robertson has put in some work. And here's another thing to consider. Travian Robertson is really good in the portal at recruiting. Travian's a little more mature of a guy. Kind of, I don't want to say he's all business, but I mean, he's kind of like his mentor, Brad Lawing. And so for older players, I think he resonates well. I mean, DeAndre Jules and Michael Goodwine last year were really good portal pickups at D tackle. So I have some faith that position will probably be okay.
Rightfully so. And again, I think it's big to get guys in there on signing day. And again, a guy like Hardy's going to be a big depth piece. The wide receiver room is getting some firepower in this signing class. Obviously, Malik Clark headlining the class, and then Lex Cyrus right there behind him. Two different wide receivers. I think Malik Clark is going to be a dog. Add some size to that room, coming in at 6'2".
Yeah.
So a lot of hope for that kid. And Cyrus, also, smaller guy, but really, really, really fast.
Really, yeah, quick-footed too with Cyrus. And Malik Clark is an athletic freak. He's gonna, I don't really like to make player comparisons, but he can follow a path similar to some of the other in-state guys. Brian Edwards maybe is a good comparison there. I just said I don't like to make comparisons yet. I made a comparison. And then Lex Cyrus is a quick, fast, quick twitch slot guy. He's going to have to get bigger, bulkier, but he's good. And South Carolina beat Penn State straight up on him. I asked our guy from 24/7 Sports that covers Penn State and also covers the Northeast, and Penn State wanted him, and South Carolina and Mike Fear got him and kept him committed, because Penn State obviously going to the Big Ten championship game and all that. A lot of momentum. James Franklin's a good recruiter. It's a very popular school. He's from Harrisburg, PA, right there. They could not flip him. So the Gamecocks did a good job keeping him in. I want to mention Lenore Sellers' brother, Jaden, too.
Yeah.
He had a really good year.
Well, yeah.
He could be the steal of this receiving class, man. I mean, he's a guy that people, it's Lenore's brother, but look at what Lenore's is doing, and he's really good. You talk to folks at Florence, South Carolina, and they really love that kid. They think Jaden's really, really good and probably under the radar. Brian Rowe is a player that Ben Briner from our website went to see. He kind of, I'll take you back to Shi Smith. Shi Smith and Otrey Smith were the top two prospects in the state in the class of 17. Both receivers. Otrey's a bigger guy, right? People fell in love with that bigger guy. He's from Wando. I thought Shi was best because what I like, Joe, is when you have a slot guy that's fast, and Shi was a 4.4 guy, but he can make unbelievable catches. Mm-hmm. Like he's got those ball skills. He can go up and just make unreal catches. He's not very big. That gives you an extra added dimension. If you remember in Shi's career, I'm thinking right now, I'm thinking about that Alabama game where Helinski fired one into triple coverage and he went up and got it. Shi was really gifted at that, and he did it in high school. That's who Brian Rowe kind of is. People forget about him because he was one of the earliest commits, but I mean, he was a North Carolina player, a 4-star guy, fast, just like Lex Cyrus. And so he's a weapon. And then you go on down the list. Jordan Gidron, of course, is from Ridgeview. I don't know how he dropped. In composite, he's 4-star. I don't know why 24/7 Sports decided just because he reclassified his projection isn't that high. They said injuries or something like that. But that guy, he's coming in early, and he probably needs to come in early, and he's going to have to develop. So I don't want to get ahead of anything on him. But if he can kind of develop at warp speed, kind of like Mazio Bennett did,
Yeah.
he can play next year. He's got a great skill set, in my opinion. Plus, there's Donovan Murph from Irmo out there.
Yeah.
That's right there on the table. I think it's Clemson or South Carolina. Things are looking solid for the Gamecocks there. Don't want to get too far ahead of myself. And he's physically ready to go. Now, he doesn't enroll until the summer. And then I do expect him to hit the portal. Plus, you do have a good core with Nick Harbor, Mazio Bennett, Ventravius Jacobs, and Jared Brown. I think all four of those guys should be back. So you got a good core returning as well. So I think the idea this offseason on offense is going to be surround Lenore Sellers with as many weapons as you possibly can.
Yeah, rightfully so, JC. And a name that you brought up, you'll probably get the flip from LSU is Mike Tyler. I watched him play Cardinal Newman a couple weeks ago. Big athletic guy, still kind of blocky as you run. So I mean, that's why he's getting a little bit overshadowed. But again, I think it's one of those guys where you just put him into the tight end factory, and let him eat. Right. You've seen the gains with Michael Smith like this year. Like came into camp. It's like, all right, is this guy going to be a dude? Put on some weight and then was making snags over like everybody. And so entering the spring and kind of summer, everyone's like, all right, this guy's going to be a dude. And we've seen what Michael Smith was able to do, just early on in his freshman year. So I think it's big. Mike Tyler is going to be, the Robin to Mike Smith's Batman, in that tight end room, kind of how Trey Knox and Josh Simon were, and everything like that. So I think it's huge. Be able to go get a guy like Tyler. And then my sleeper for this class, JC, is I watched Anthony Addison play a bunch this summer. Really quick kid, got a lot of length, right? So if you can put some weight on that kid, I think he could be, a depth piece. I think he'll redshirt next year probably because of all the depth that you have in the edge room. But another guy to go into that edge room with length and athleticism, it can't hurt, cannot hurt.
No, I love it. I mean, this class is full of pass rushing types. I mean, there's some question about like Donovan Darden, if he's going to be a linebacker or an edge. I know Hale has reported linebacker. I love him as an edge, just straight up hand in the dirt edge, though. You mentioned Addison. One rule of thumb: never go against in-state defensive linemen, and really defensive linemen from the Carolinas. We call it D-line heaven for a reason. So you saw. I have not seen him in person. So you say his length is good. How tall do you think he is ultimately? 6'2.5", 6'3", or?
Yeah, I think it's like 6'2.5", 6'3". His wingspan's got to be really long. I don't. His wingspan was like he'd be coming around the edge with all of it, like his arms out and just so much length. Right, can kind of grab the quarterback all over an offensive lineman if he bull rushes kind of thing. I don't know. I was impressed. And just the way he handled it too, right? A lot of guys with that kind of bricky like length and that kind of thing, tend to be blockier or can't necessarily move. But I mean, with that kind of speed off the edge and with that kind of, it's almost like a Des U type, right?
Yeah.
Just similar with that. And Des U's quick as all hell too. But yeah, I see him fitting in with, that similar type, quick off the edge. And all that. So again, 3-star for us at 24/7 right now. Again, he's sitting at 210. I think they'll get him up to around 230 once he gets in here. I think Sterling Lucas has them all playing at like 238, 240-ish. So that'd be big. But then again, I've seen Mike Tyler play as well. I think he's a developmental guy. You get him into the factory and all that. So I think it's big.
Yeah. I dig that. That's the length is so important at DN because, like as you mentioned, the arm, the wingspan. I mean, you've seen what that can do with Dylan Stewart this year. That dude's got violent hands and extremely long and lengthy, and those guys are very valuable in football. So, what you want to avoid is your guys, and I hate to bring it up because it's a Chicago Bear, and I know that we cover him, but Byron Cowart was the number one player in the country one year. And I'd quit doing it, but I always thought it was dumb. And he went because he was short armed and he was 6'2". And that was my best spot, was end and tackle. I really hit on some guys, but I never agree with that. I mean, hell, he's getting playing football still, which is amazing to me, but he did absolutely nothing at Auburn, when he was there. And I was like, well, guys, he's a sawed off short guy, but if you have length, even if you are like 6'2.5", 6'3", you can get things done. There was a player at Clemson, Shaq Lawson, from Daniel High School a few years back, I guess it's about a decade now. He was like 6'2", but he got up to like 270. Looked like he even had bad weight, but his arms were extremely long, and he ended up being one heck of a pass rusher up there for the Tigers. So I'm very encouraged with the in-state crop. I'll tell you, a guy from in-state that nobody really talks about a whole lot that I like. Speaking of length, we'll switch to the secondary with this one, is DeMarcus Leach from Abbeville. He's kind of that Torian Gray defensive back. I like the way he plays physically. I like guys from small towns. They end up coming in with something to prove. Abbeville certainly has a football history, but it's a small town. I think he's a guy that committed early that's just flown under the radar. Curious to see. I don't know if he made the Shrine Bowl or not, but curious to see if he did, what people come away with after watching him there. But that's another in-state guy. And some of these guys, Addison Leach, they may not play but on special teams next year, but what you want is to develop them. I think we're seeing that, there are some guys that come in from in-state that are ready to go, like Nick Emanware and DQ Smith. And then there's some guys that come in that take a while. TJ Sanders didn't play a whole lot his first couple of years, and that's paid off pretty well, right? So, I kind of think that this in-state group of guys has a chance to really, maybe be a core of players in 2 or 3 years that we're talking about, that we maybe weren't talking about a whole lot when they committed.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. JC, my guy Coleman Johnson, who was sitting in front of me in the Missouri game. Shout out to Coleman there, making a bunch of good points. Yeah. When will y'all start covering the portal? I'm guessing this is gonna, I have an answer for this. It just went as it heats up, right? After signing day, a lot of these guys have a better idea of what the roster is going to look like next year. And what the coaches want the roster to look like next year. And I'm pretty sure they're done with one-on-ones, or at least finishing that up with players meeting with coach for their kind of exit interviews or what have you. But so, Coleman, the portal's going to heat up here in these next couple of weeks, especially with the bowl game. And I know there's guys that are obligated to play in the bowl game and stuff along those lines as well. So it's going to heat up here. It's just only starting to get going.
Yeah, and so they moved the signing day this year. It's weird to me having it. I mean, it wasn't that big of an adjustment when they moved it to December. I think that first year, Joe, everybody, including Nick Saban, was caught off guard at the number of guys that signed early. Yeah. Now everybody seems to. They were expecting like 40%. It was 80. If you notice, that's the one year Nick Saban didn't sign the number one class in the country. He's caught off guard. Everybody else is. But you got used to it because you had a couple of weeks. Coaches would go on the road. They would, kind of gather everybody in. So, but now it's right after the Clemson game. And so they did that for a reason, because the portal, you see reports of guys getting into the portal, but it's not really open right now. There's guys that you can get in, but you can't, the rules are kind of weird. I think they open it officially right after championship week. And then it goes on and on and on. Coleman also asked your man here, do we anticipate more guys entering the portal from Carolina's side? Yeah. I mean, I don't know who exactly. I always say this, though, with the transfer portal and the outgoing. There will be a player that individually many of you like, and there'll be players that I like, and there'll be players that I'm disappointed they're leaving. But as long as you don't lose your top line guys, you're fine. Like last year, when Omega Blake left, I was like, that's tough, because I thought, well, he'll get better and better. He's a receiver. But lo and behold, he goes to East Carolina, doesn't like it, goes to Charlotte, didn't really do much there. A lot of these guys don't do much, What you want to avoid is, with the exception of like the Juice Wells situation or the Mitch Jeter situation, where there's nothing you could do. They were just bound and determined to leave. You just want to keep your core guys. And, that would be your Jaylon Kilgore's, Dylan Stewart, Fred Johnson,
Lenore Sellers.
Oh,
Like,
yeah, it goes without
he's not going
saying.
anywhere. But
Mazeo Bennett, Jawan
yeah,
Howell, Attaway, Matthew Fuller, the good young core of players that Shane Beamer's brought here. But yeah, there'll be some more. And I can't tell you that there won't be a guy that you like that won't be in it. And I'll tell myself and prepare myself. There'll be a player I like. There'll be a player Joe likes.
yeah,
It's just the nature of it. I also do want to say this. I can't guarantee anybody's definitely not going to leave.
yeah.
These days, you just don't know. And I do know there was an irresponsible blog out there talking about Lenore Sellers testing the waters. I would be completely floored if that if that happened.
Yep.
This guy cited some source somewhere. I doubt it's legit. I doubt he has the sources like we got around South Carolina, but I don't want anybody to fret about that one. But yeah, Cutter Woods, the quarterback too, man. I really like him, Joe. He plays for Brian Lane at Westside High School in Anderson. Brian actually was my high school junior high quarterback. I called the only touchdown of my football career for Brian Catfish Lane. He used to be the head coach at Burns. We played at Burns and DR Hill Middle School together. And he made his way to Westside, won a state championship last year. I like this kid. I think this guy down the road, he's a winner. He can run a little. He can throw. He comes from a good system. He's well coached. I think he's a steal. Clemson tried to kind of get in on him. Some other schools tried to get in on him. He flipped from Wake Forest. I think Dave Clawson does a good job of finding these under the radar quarterbacks early. So he knows what he's doing. Cutter Woods, man, I think that guy's just a winner.
Yeah. JC, I'm with you. I mean, I think Cutter Woods, again, another guy I watched play this summer. He was in at some of these camps. Cutter Woods, a guy that, he's big, right? Bigger quarterback, 6'2", 210, looks a little bit bigger than that. So I a good depth piece to the room, and has a lot of potential as well. You need as much competition in the quarterback room as you can get, right? You saw that. That's why they brought in Robbie Ashford, just in case. You need the competition to kind of sift its way out. And also, I mean, to keep Lenore's, there too. Cause I mean, if he's playing against guys that, aren't challenging him as a player, you've got some things to work on. So I think Cutter Woods, again, big bodied kid, can really throw the rock too. Was impressed with his arm talent this summer. Can be a guy in that quarterback room, again, to provide depth and, maybe down the road get called upon when needed. We'll see. Again, coming in as a true freshman. I believe he's going to try to come in January. Not 100% sure on that. But again, I think coming in January will help. And a lot of these guys, I don't know, JC, how you feel about this, but I don't necessarily know how much the whole bowl practice helps anyways. Like, it's good to kind of get in the rhythm of college football and see what it's like. But at the end of the day, like, you're going to get the same thing in January.
I'm trying to think the one guy that did that was who
Pup Howard.
Power did it. And he's at Florida. He had a good year at Florida, but Quantrell Cover 3 had it as their title for one of their videos. Gamecocks need to find money to keep sellers. I don't think they know the first damn thing about the NIL situation at South Carolina. I do. So they can shove that in their pipe. How about that? Not surprising, the boys at Cover 3. They probably want Florida State to come pay him a bunch of money and get him because they got Jaheim Bell. But whatever, man.
Yeah.
Whatever. So, but anyway, I know I got to get to the show and all that. And folks, join us on Inside the Gamecocks show for our signing day extravaganza. But certainly always good to be with you, Joe, here on the walkthrough special. Just want to get in here and mix it up with everybody on one of the better days of the year. And Coleman, right now, it's hard to say about coaches leaving because that carousel is going to start to spin later. But there's going to be very little activity in the coaching carousel this year, like with head coaches. So I think everybody will be back. I think it's pretty critical to keep the defensive guys in place. And, I'm pretty sure the offensive guys will be back as well. But we'll see sort of what happens.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, JC, appreciate you joining me. Go have fun on Inside the Gamecocks. Should be a fun show. I'll be tuning in for sure.
Absolutely. Thanks to all you guys. Thanks, Joe, and enjoyed it. And we'll talk soon.
Absolutely.